Bonjour, welcome to another carp fix, and this time me and Scott have travelled over to France to visit a CarpaSens water called Carpox'R. Mega place. I've not actually visited a venue for many years. We have so many snags to fish to. It's got 2 or 3 very prominent islands, quite big islands, again, filled with snags. You could walk down here and go, I want a rod there, I want a rod there, I want a rod there. It really is a mega place. We've already seen a few fish show on our walk round, and both me and Scott this week are going to be fishing. Now, before we set off, we booked our swim with CarpaSens many months ago, and we booked out Peg 4. A very spacious swim, a lot of shade, which is very nice this time of the year because it's going to get very hot this week. The carp in here is what we're after, and there are some mega ones too, between sort of 800 to 1,000 fish, up to sort of 32 kilos, which is knocking on the door to nearly 70 pounds, which is a big old carp. All our kit's in the van, we've got a lot to do. We both want to get 3 rods out before dark. Let's get cracking.
Now in the swim, it was time to find some features to fish to. Andre the bailiff had kindly mentioned that the gravel bars can often produce bites. I decided to boat across to Peg 12 as there was no one fishing that swim this week, and it gave me the perfect opportunity to marker from this swim, and if the bars ran parallel with the bank, it would make it much easier to locate them. After a few casts, I popped up the marker on one of the gravel bars and went out in the boat with the prodding stick to hopefully locate the best spot possible to present a hook bait.
Well, we've had a good lead around, and I've actually got set up now where my little red H block is, which replaced my marker float. That is the money spot. That's exactly where I want my hook baits to land. And behind it by 2 rod lengths, I've added a pole. Now that pole is going to stay in place. It's got several sort of 4-ounce leads on there, and that's going to stay in place throughout the session. And I'll be fishing back in line with my swim, a good 2 rod lengths away from the pole. I know where I need to be when I'm rebaiting. I know where I need to be when I'm resetting the rods. And everything is perfect. That is a really good zone. That is absolutely granite hard. Any further that way in towards the snags, it goes very soft. And on the end of the prodding stick, there's like little holes, and that will almost grab the bottom and bring it up to the surface. And it's very silty, very chalky. But that hard area is absolutely perfect. So all that's left to do now is go back to the bank, knock up a really good mix. Now I'm not going to mess about on this spot, this sort of open water area. I'm going to probably put in excess of 8 to 10 kilos, give them a real good sort of hit of bait in this area, and hopefully build up a little hit of fish. I'm going to actually put 2 rods on this spot as well. And the other rod, I'm going to find a nice area along that sort of tree margin, but I've got a really good feeling about this open water spot. The spot seems good, the area seems good. I reckon this is going to get a lot of fish traffic. We are fishing after a very long day. I am very much looking forward to my bed. I'm sure Scott is too. But the rods are out. It's looking all right. We've seen fish. We've seen a lot of fish up in 2 and 3, albeit up in the water on the surface. Not really surprising with it being a very warm day, but hopefully they will drift down tonight. Now, you may notice we're getting a lot of liners, and we're using braid, so it's very sensitive, and you get to know what's going on with your swim. And it's not carp. There's a lot of roach in here, so we are going to have to address the roach. We may have to change our baiting. I think baiting with the hemp, corn, maize is a big no-no. This is, this is definitely a boilie venue. You need bait on the deck for when the carp come along, and I'm sure over the course of the week we will get fish traffic. We will get fish come along our spots, and we will get an opportunity. Hopefully we get them in. It is extremely snaggy. It's extremely exciting fishing. If one of them rods busts off now, you're in the boat in a battle. I'm very much looking forward to one going. I'm sure Scott is also. Let's see what tonight brings. Grass carp. Not a bad start to the session, I guess. But yeah, not exactly what we were after, because there's some big old carp in here. But it did get the adrenaline going once that, once them rods go off on braid. You never know what's going to be on the end, but Scott did manage a couple of bites last night. He's managed a nice mirror, probably a 20-pounder. We'll put this one back and we're going to work out for a plan today because we have seen a lot of fish.
There we go, a nice way to start our Carpox'R adventure. A 22.5-pound mirror taken from the island at long range, 2 little tiger nuts on the hook bait. You're not allowed to use them as free offerings, although Andre has said we can put a few in. When we say a few, it literally is a few in amongst some hemp and some boilies. So this one is a nice way to start our week over in France, and hopefully there's many more to come.
Well, Scotty and myself have both seen through bite time. It's got extremely hot, so we've reeled the rods in and come for a little walk down at the opposite end of the lake. Now, last night there were bundles of fish showing down here, and we've got tough conditions this week. Roasting hot, all day sunshine, hardly any wind and fairly high pressure. Now, if you look back at me and Tom Maker's session on St John's, when you've got tough conditions, you need to be on the fish. You need to be fishing amongst the snags or a no fishing margin. That's where you're gonna get opportunities. Now, I've had a little walk round to peg 2 this morning. There's not a lot of room in that peg for 2 anglers. Peg 3, this room here gives us more options to sort of spread our rods out and get ourselves all of our rods on fish. So the long job now of packing down, getting round to peg 3 and giving it a real good go in here because it looks good.
Packing down all the gear after getting it set in here yesterday wasn't our plan, but we both knew we had to get closer to where we could see the fish. Once in the new swim, I took the boat over to a snag, and upon getting closer, it was evident there were carp here. You could see them under the branches, relaxing in the morning sun.
I couldn't fit in that under one. That's why I want my rig. That's exactly where I want it.
With no time to waste, I placed a tiger nut hook bait plus a handful of free offerings around the spot.
That's it, rod number 1 done. That really is in the carp nest. We saw several real good fish while we was out there, mainly on the surface, but there's a few bubblers as well, including a real nice ghosty, probably upper 30, maybe even 40-pound. But yeah, much happier. These are the spots you want to be in conditions like this, in the woodwork, fishing strong. You know, I've got braid all the way through to real heavy shock leaders, strong hooks. So when that rod does go in, drag it away from the snags, maybe get in the boat if I need to, but hopefully we can land them from the bank. But yeah, I am feeling extremely confident.
With 1 rod set, I positioned my 2nd rod further up the margin. I actually found an old marker in a tree that a previous angler had fished to. With it getting late, I didn't want to cause too much more disturbance, so this was my best option. Scotty got a couple of rods out that evening, 1 on his left margin and 1 on the island close to where he'd caught the previous night. Come morning, I was not a happy man. I'd lost a couple of fish, but this was down to my own choice of rigs. They simply weren't strong enough. It was time to beef it up with much stronger gear.
Good morning. This place is savage. Now, I've fished over at Rainbow quite a few times, and although the lake layout is slightly different, the snags you're fishing to are very similar. And I've been fishing a little bit undergunned. You don't know these things until you hook fish and find out where the weak points are on your tackle. And it seems to be my hook link material, that 20-pound IQ, is just clearly not up for the job. You know, but back at home, I can't remember the last time I got cut off on 20-pound IQ, but here, it's easily done when you've got heavy leaders and heavy braided mainline on. So everything has been sort of scrutinised this morning and made the utmost strength in mind. And I've gone with a 50-pound camo braided braided hook link, sorry. You know, when the guys go to Gilliam's in France and Thailand and catch these massive arapaimas and Siamese carp, this is what they're using. So I know this is up for the job. So yes, I'm out getting the rods back out there now and trying again. But one little thing I did make a change to yesterday was we was fishing tiger nut hook baits, and the reason for that was the crayfish. Now, speaking to Andre, the on-site bailiff, he said that the crayfish now are not a problem. So I put a boilie on last night, 2 bites straight away. So back out there, straight out the bag of these fish meal boilies I'm using for mainline. And yeah, we go again. Hopefully this time, everything is bulletproof. So I'm gonna get back to the spot, get this rig lowered, and hopefully we get one more chance before this sun gets really hot. But tonight, it's on.
thin lead to the bottom. Lovely hard area there. And then just a little bounce to separate the lead. I decided to place one rod on the far margin where I had a bite the previous night. A second rod went down the right hand margin as both myself and Scott had seen a number of fish showing along that area. I also decided to place one rod on the island as it looked extremely inviting and we'd also seen signs of carp here. After losing one earlier in the day, Scott got his rods back out, including one in open water where he actually introduced a fair amount of bait. It was another absolutely scorching hot day and it was no surprise we saw very little fish action. So it was a good opportunity to both catch up on some work, also recharge our batteries because we both knew tonight it could be game on. Before darkness, we both refreshed a couple of rods, ensuring they were in prime position for a bite. I could literally spend the entirety of the evening with my head in that fan, but rods need to go out. This weather is absolute torture, but we are getting towards that time of the evening now where there's a chance, you know, from 10 o'clock in the morning through till now, you know, it's survival mode. But there's some nice fishing here. I am well revved up for it, especially after last night's, I'm not going to say calamity, because, you know, we're going through a learning process here of understanding what is needed to get the job done. And at the minute, stepping up the tackle is what's needed, and that's exactly what I've done this afternoon. Nothing's changed on the braid side of things. I'm still using my 20-pound sub braid, still got heavy fluorocarbon leaders on, still got a good sort of 2 or 3 foot of dark matter tubing, but what has changed is this last section. That's the section that's been letting me down from my own fault. Not knowing the lake, not knowing what I'm up against has cost me a couple of fish, but hopefully now, I say hopefully now, if I get cut off on this, we're in trouble. You know, it's to the point where we're not going to land them, and then we've got to start looking for moves. But I say we've stepped up the tackle now. I'm going to get them back on the spots, and hopefully the next opportunity will be one of these big CarpaSens carp in my net. In the early hours, my rod on the island was away, and even though I was on this rod in double quick time, the rod was snagged almost instantly. So I got to the boat to take a closer look.
It's on someone else's line.
It was no surprise it was snagged. It was snagged on a load of old line and loose branches. But with a little bit of patience and luck, I still managed to slip the net under what looked like a mega carp.
Got him. Oh, mate.
Got it free from the snag, but it was under someone else's leader. So every time I got it close to the net, the leader would kick back in again and the fish would just dive. Oh, mate. I was proper made up to catch that common, but not long after, my middle rod on the snag was away. Something unfortunately happened to the GoPro recording, but I did manage to land a big mirror.
Lovely, 28 pound.
This place, it tests you as an angler. I got it totally wrong on my first night. My kit wasn't up for the job. Lessons learned, put everything that I needed to put into practice last night. Got opportunities and got fish in the net. And this wasn't the only one. This 28 pound common soonly got followed by another cracking mirror, which looks a real good one as well. This place really does test you, but I tell you what, I am thoroughly enjoying the fishing here. There are some awesome carp, just like this one. Look at the mouth on that. Proper carp, proper lake. Let's have a look at the next one.